Well put, Governor Huckabee. Always good seeing you. You can catch his show this weekend. Huckabee, it's always some fun stuff, and he sings, he dances, and he does a little roulette thing. Always good seeing you.
Thank you.
Fair and balanced now. Carl Jeffers, the liberal columnist and strategist and writer, says we're still in this job stall, not because we're spending too much, but because we're actually spending too little. So, Carl, you haven't been drinking. You came here sober with that view, right?
And I still haven't been drinking, but after I listen to you and the governor, I may have to have a drink or two to get through the rest of the day. One thing we should say, Neil, that is fair. Today's Friday. Yesterday, Thursday, and Wednesday, all of the media, including Fox, and we heard it reported, were saying in anticipation of the job reports today that we expect there to be 50,000 jobs lost.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So this was better than expected. No, Carl, you're right. And I by the way, I pointed that out in prior broadcasts. That it's better expected. But, you could say that the loss wasn't as bad as expected, but it's still a loss. I mean, you're bragging about...
And listen, Neil, having defended the idea that stage had been set, I know as well as anyone that the president and everyone else was playing a little politics by saying that the losses were not as bad as expected, but the media led them into that, and everyone has to take some responsibility. You're right, but look,
it's also, we're losing jobs here. It's sort of like the argument that being the hottest leper in the leper colony. You're still a leper, and it's still pathetic where you are, and that's the issue here. It's still pathetic where we are. We've lost 4 million jobs under this guy. 4 million jobs.
And Neil, I've been very critical of that, and let me say 2 quick things. One, first of all, we tend to talk about federal workers or people who work for the government and state governments and the federal government like there's some class of aliens from another planet. They are Americans like you and I, and if you don't have a job and if I don't have a job and we feel like we can qualify for a job working for the federal government or the state government, we're going to apply for that job.
But Carl, in order to have a recovery, I mean, you need more than just government jobs, right? I mean,
you certainly do.
And when our only claim to fame, when the hottest growth industry in the United States right now is the U.S. government, there is something very wrong with that picture, right?
Right, and that's because the rest of the economy is dragging so. But the question that's been posed to me today is about spending more money. I can tell you, Neil, a year ago, had all of the economists told the president and his cabinet that a year from now, in March of 2010, unemployment will be just under 10%, they would have said, well, then $700 billion is not enough for the stimulus. We're going to have to spend more. So we've now gotten to that point, so they're going to have to spend more. Plus it's an election
I love
year.
you dearly, but look, all right.
Good.
$800 billion on the stimulus, right? $15 billion on the jobs program. We've had 50-some-odd billion in a smattering of other job incentive programs. We had what was it, $12 billion for the Cash for Caucus program, whatever that was. I guess Home Depot had a payday. Now, with all of that, we're down all these jobs. Now, we might have created and saved X number. I have no idea. But you and I have been around long enough to know we generally look at payroll data as our barometer and as our sort of guide. And that guide don't look good. And so we've been spending. And all I've been saying, Carl, if we've been spending all this amount of money to get that, then maybe just put the shovel down.
But the problem is, Neil, that one of the reasons why Americans are so angry is they have seen all of this spending, but so much of it has not gone to them. I mean, these shovel-ready projects, turns out it was more shoveling than actual projects. And we understand that. That's why they're angry. That money should have been restricted.
You understand it, Carl. I don't know if a lot of your pals understand it.
Or a lot of my pals understand it. It's a question of who's in that group on any given day based on whether they're employed or not. And that's the factor here, Neil. All I'm saying, Neil, is that we needed to make sure that the banks that got taught money from these same Americans that we're talking about didn't put it in the bank, buy other banks and pad their balance sheets, that they used it to lend to small businesses and people to open a business. That the stimulus money, which most of it went to the states, to balance their budgets for education. California got $7 billion
Carl, you know
from
what,
education.
Carl, on Pluto, I'd be svelte. You got to look at the reality here. The reality is, after all this money, we're still in deep doo-doo. End of story.
Right, because we didn't spend it with the requirements that would have forced that money to go to Main Street, Neil. That's the problem.
Carl,
and now that Main Street is still hurting, the only way to truly stimulate that is for the government. But we've got to make sure that it is in fact spent on Main Street.
All right. Well, if I want to be stimulated, I generally don't go to the government. But Carl, you were great. You're a great guy, great sport. You're just wrong on this. But seriously, very good seeing you. Have a wonderful weekend, my friend. All right.
All right, well, one of these days you're going to realize if I'm right all along, and then we'll both have that drink you were talking about.
All right, the day that happens, we're going to have 100 drinks. All right, Carl, thanks very much.